Okay, we'll continue our discussion. We were looking at converting from regular expression to the DFA directly without going through the NFA. And towards that, we defined four different types of functions. One was nullable, which returns true if that particular node can represent empty string. Then first pos, which is the set of positions that correspond to the first symbol in all the strings that is represented by that node. And the last pos is the last symbol's positions. And then follow pos is the set of next positions from n for all the valid strings. So we looked at the first three and we'll look at the last one today. I'll just briefly go through each of those definitions just to recall. So we said that in general, the leaf nodes which represent the non-empty character, which is the actual character like A and B, those are all non-nullable, whereas star represents nullable. Right? In our example, only star was nullable. Then if C1 and C2 are two subtrees for a particular node, then n becomes nullable if either of C1 or C2 is nullable. And for concatenation node, we say that if both are nullable, then n becomes nullable. For first pos, for epsilon it is the empty set, but for the position I, we just add that particular position as the first position because that represents a particular character. But if it is an OR node, then we say that it is first pos of C1 or first pos of C2. For star node, we say that whatever is the first pos of C, that is going to be first pos of C star. But for the cat node, we have to check that by default it should be first pos of C1, but then C1 could be nullable, in which case we have to unify first pos of C1 and first pos of C2. Similarly, for last pos, we had OR node as the union, and the cat node was that if C2 is nullable, then it becomes a union of C1 and C2. So that was our last pos, and we also computed that information for our example, where we said that the first pos and last pos are these two sets specified with each node in this tree. So, for example, for OR, the first position could be 1 or 2, and the last position could also be 1 or 2. For star node, the first position will be whatever is the first position of C, right? So for C star, we said that first position of C. So that is what is mentioned here. For concatenation, the first position is going to have, since the left-hand subtree, which is star, is going to be nullable, therefore it should be a union of these two. So the first pos will be 1, 2, 3, whereas the last pos is always guaranteed to be 3. Right? And for the rest of it, since first dot in this string is always going to be non-nullable, therefore we always get 1, 2, 3 as the first pos, and then the right-hand subtree's position as the last pos. So 1, 2, 3, 4, then 1, 2, 3, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 6 become the first pos and last pos for each of these concatenation nodes. So we were here and we were looking at follow pos, but any questions so far on this? All right. So the follow pos, we said, is the set of positions for the next character, right? So so if n, for the other nodes it's going to be relatively easy, but for if it is an cat node, right, which is a concatenation node, then for each position in the last, so concatenation is C1 dot C2. So for each position in C1's subtree or subtree rooted at C1, that is all the strings which are represented by C1, all the positions in the first pause of C2 they follow. Right? So that is what we will say. So we are creating a relationship across C1 dot C2, and therefore for each last pause of C1 the first pause of C2 follows. Similarly, if it is a star node, right, C star, then for each position in the last pause of that node, that is C, that is all the strings represented by C, all the positions in the first pause of the same follow, right, because there is a repeated processing of C, a repeated concatenation of C. Right, so that is the main thing, and we'll see the rest of it now. So in our example, if you look at this particular dot node, that is the cat node here, then we are saying that for each of the last pause of the left hand subtree, which is the star, the first pause of right hand subtree, which is A, that follows, right? So therefore we will be able to say that for the last pause of star, which is 1, 2, for each of these, the first pause of A, which is 3, follow. What this means is that if you have seen a or B star, after this A is going to follow, right? So that essentially this is, so that 1, 2 is coming from here. So if you have seen A or B, after that the position 3 should follow, which means that you will be able to see A, which is shown in node number 3. Right? So that is what is the follow. Similarly, can you write about what will be the follow pause for other nodes? 1, 2 I have written, 3, 4, 5, 6. So for 3, what will be the, so 3 is also a concatenation node. Right. So what does that give? Okay, so when we go to this concatenation node, that is it has the left subtree as left subtree as the concatenation node. Its last pause is 3, and that is going to give us the information about the follow pause of 3. Right? So its last pause is 3, and the first pause of the next one is going to be 4, that is this one, and therefore for 3 the follow pause is going to be 4. So that is what I have mentioned here, and that is what is similarly going to be followed for each of these. Is this concept clear, or? So let me, I think there is some confusion about follow pause. So follow pause for a particular node is going to be set of all positions, I mean for all the strings that get generated, what is the next character? Essentially that is what we want for the final transition diagram for the DFA that we are going to generate. Right? So on this particular symbol, let's say small a or small b, this is going to be the next position. Right? So that is what we want in the transition diagram. Now for that we are defining follow pause in a slightly different way in this particular syntax tree context, that for each of these nodes, if it is a cat node, then we are going to say that cat node of C1 and C2, that means that for each last position, that is the last character in C1, the first character in C2 is going to follow. Right? So that will define a transition from, if you have seen C1, then on this particular character I need to go to, let's say, C2, that is the position corresponding to C2's first node. Whereas if it is a star node, that is C star, so I am seeing the string C, then since it is C star, the next position is going to be the first position of C. Right? So therefore the follow pause is going to be decided by the first character's position for the last character. So that is what is defined for the star nodes. So that defines our follow pause. Let's yeah. Then we also had for the rule for the star node. So we had done for the concatenation. Let's finish that for the star node. So we said that for star node, whatever is there, so C star, which is in this case A or B star. Right? So we are saying that whatever is the last pause of this, where is the last pause of star? That is defined here. Right? So that is well, I mean, you can as well take it this way. Either way, it should be fine. So if you take 1 or 2, then its star is going to be, the first pause of that is going to be deciding the follow pause of the last pause. Right? So for the last pause, that is each of 1, 2, 1, 2 is also going to be the follow pause. Right? So that's what we are going to mention here, that for 1, 2, 1, 2 should also be in the follow pause. So that is what I am going to do here, where I have updated the set which was containing 3 alone, which was coming because of the cat node. Now because of the star node, there are additional transitions possible. What this essentially indicates that in the strings, whenever you have A or B seen, after that you can get either A or B from states 1 and 2, that is nodes 1 and 2, or you can get an A from state number 3. That's what it means. Right? And that was what our regular expression was, A or B star followed by ABB. Right? So that is what it is indicating. Any questions on this one? Okay. So I'll move ahead. We'll finish that example. So our algorithm was that we construct the regular expression for regex with some end marker. Then we compute these 4 functions. And now we have to construct once we have computed these 4 functions, using that we are going to construct a DFA. That DFA requires us to have the transition function. And the algorithm to compute this DFA is shown on the next slide. Once we have the DFA built in, then we mark the first pause of the root of this syntax tree as the start state, and then other states which have the sharp sign as the accepting states and so on. So 4 and 5 are more like order 1 operations, but let's look at the algorithm for constructing the DFA once we have these 4 things computed. Right? In fact, we are not going to require anything other than the first pause and follow pause, because the nullable we have already used in the computation of first pause and follow pause, and the last pause is going to get used for computing the follow pause, right? So we need the first pause here and then the follow pause. Those are going to, follow pause is essentially the most important one, which is going to give us the transition function. Okay, so what we are going to do first is to create the start state of the DFA, right? So that is going to be the first pause of the root. What is the root in our syntax tree? That node number, this one is going to be our start state. So that is what we will define here. So that was our root 1, 2, 3, 6. That is the root of this syntax tree. So that's first position. First position of that is going to be 1, 2, 3. And that we are going to specify as the start state of this DFA. That is what I am showing at the bottom here. Okay. Now I am going to add different transitions from this root node as well as from other nodes, and I'll keep creating new and new nodes. The way we did when we converted from NFA to DFA, we had some epsilon reachable number of states, and then for each of the symbols we tried to go to a new state. If that state already existed, then we added an arrow there. Otherwise we were creating a new state. Very similarly we are going to do here also. So I'm going to use marking and unmarking to make sure that that particular state has been seen or not. So I'm going to mark that initial state. So while there exists unmarked states, right, I'm going to mark that state. S, right? So, and then for each input symbol, that is, I'm going to go over the alphabet. In this case, A and B. I'm going to take the follow pause of P, where P is in the state. The state is being represented here. This 1, 2, 3, right? Node is S, and P is essentially iterating over 1, 2, and 3. So for each of these P, I am going to create a label with this alphabet X, right? So that is our input symbol X. Take the union of all the positions which I can reach, and that defines my new position. If that new position is 1, 2, 3, I am going to add a self arrow, self loop in this 1, 2, 3 example. If it is something other than that, then I need to create a new state. So I'll show that with this. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3 represent the nodes A, B, and A in our syntax tree. Right? So position 1 was A, position 2 was B, position 3 was A. Right? That was the label of that particular node in our syntax tree from our previous slide. So for 1, 2, 3, I am going to mark a follow pause for this 1, 2, 3 for the input symbol. What this means is that I have two input symbols, A and B. When I am considering A, I need to consider 1 and 3. When I am considering B, I need to consider follow pause of 2. So follow pause of 1 and 3 is something which we have created on the previous slide. Follow pause of 1 and 3 was, let me just go back, sorry. Yeah, follow pause of 1 and 2 was 1, 2, 3. So that is what we will do here. Yeah, so in fact I have copied it here. So follow pause of 1, follow pause of 1, sorry. Yeah. So follow pause of 1 was 1, 2, 3, follow pause of 3 was 4, and therefore the union of these two on transition on symbol A is going to give me 1, 2, 3, 4 as a new state. It is not the same as 1, 2, 3. So I need to create a new state on symbol A. Right? So that will be my new state, and that is what is the new transition that I am going to add from state 1, 2, 3 on symbol A. The union of follow pause is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So, and what happens on the other symbol B? From other symbol B, the state is 1, 2, 3. The symbols are going to be only B, and that is represented by the state number 2, and therefore on 2 I am going to go to 1, 2, 3. So on B I am going to go to 1, 2, 3, and that means that I will have a self loop on B from 1, 2, 3 to itself, and on A I am going to go from 1, 2, 3 to 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So that is what is getting shown here for A, and then on B I am going to go to 1, 2, 3. This part, if it is unclear, please ask me to repeat.
Sir, can you please repeat?
Rudra is saying something.
Hello.
Yeah, Rudra, go ahead.
Sir, can you please repeat the last part? So here the unmarked state first pose of root, then S equal to 1, 2, 3, right?
S equal to 1, 2, 3, correct.
So like just all the three nodes together, or are they separate? So S equal to 1, then 2, and then 3, or S 1, 2, 3 is together in there?
So as far as S is concerned, these are together, but the P that we are talking about, that needs to be separated for this state 1, 2, 3. So this state is being represented with the nodes 1, 2, and 3. For each of these nodes, we find out which of these are representing the symbol X. Currently we are going through symbol A, then symbol B in this for loop. So for A, whichever are the nodes in the syntax tree, in the previous syntax tree, which are marked as A, those I will consider. So in this case 1 and 3, and 1 and 3's follow pause are 1, 2, 3 followed by 4, and therefore the union of that is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. That is what we will create as a new state. Then we take the next symbol, which is B, B is represented by which of these nodes in the state S. So that is going to be only 2. So I'll take 2's follow pos, which is going to be 1, 2, 3. And that is going to be my new transition on B from state 1 to 3. Right? So that is what is shown here.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Any other concerns anybody has? You have to store the nodes in a specific order for
each state. I didn't understand that. So are you saying that 1, 2, 3 is that ordering important or something else? 1, 2, 3, 4 and not, no, that ordering is not. So we consider it to be a state. So any order is fine. And these are equivalent. 1, 2, 3, 4 is same as 2, 1, 3. Any other concerns? All right. So we have built this part. I want you to finish the rest of it. Right. So what will happen? So from 1 to 3, we have both the transitions. I mean, alphabet contains A and B alone. So the transition is finished for 1 to 3. Can you tell me what is going to be the transitions from 1 to 3, 4? On A, what happens? Self loop, it stays there on A. Okay. So let's compute that. So what we are saying is that since we are talking about state 1, 2, 3, 4, the nodes in the syntax tree that it represents are nodes 1, node 2, node 3, node 4, which represent A, B, A, B, right? So if we have to talk about the transition from 1, 2, 3, 4, we have to consider nodes 1 and 3. 1 and 3 represent A's. So 1 and 3's follow pos is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and therefore you are going to come back to that same state on A, right? So that is what Abhishek, Arnav and Nishchit are saying. What happens on B? 1, 2, 3, 4 goes to 1, 2, 3, 5 on seeing B, 1, 2, 3, 5. Okay. So let's check that. On transition on symbol B, you need to consider what are the nodes corresponding to B in this particular state 1, 2, 3, 4. The nodes corresponding to B are 2 and 4. So we take the follow pos of 2 and 4, which is going to be 1, 2, 3, 5. Right? For 2 and 4, the union is going to give us 1, 2, 3 and 5. There is no such state, therefore we have to create a new state which is going to be 1, 2, 3, 5 on B. Right? So that is what it is going to look like, that 1, 2, 3, 5, and there is a transition from 1, 2, 3, 4 on B. Right? So and similarly, if you try to complete that, you will get a state transition diagram like this, which is going to be our final DFA. Right? So you have all these different states possible, and then transitions on A and B, and that is going to give us the DFA like this. And if you recall whatever we did from NFA to DFA, we got exactly the same DFA as before, right? So there is no guarantee that you will get the minimal DFA. It so happened that in this example we got the minimal DFA. Okay, and is that over? Well, we just need to mark the first state and the final state. So the first state was whatever was the state we started with, which was 1, 2, 3, and the final state is any state which contains this, any state which contains that 6. The 6 was our sharp sign, right, which means the end of the string. So any state which contains that 6 is going to be the final state. So that is what we are going to mark now. So that represents the DFA corresponding to that. Okay. Now can you do this for, now can you do this for the given example? So what we have is B or AB whole star, and then AA or B whole star. So, and there is a concatenation of these two closure nodes, and so I'll give you some more time to. So you'll have to create the syntax tree first, right? Then find the nullable. So B, A, B will not be, any of these will not be nullable, but the two star nodes will become nullable, right? Once you have the nullable, then you can define the first pause, then the last pause, and using that you can construct the follow pause. Once you have constructed the follow pause, then from the syntax tree, we have to compute the transition function. So take the start state corresponding to the root of this syntax tree, and from there on different symbols, in this case also the symbols are A and B, on that whatever are the transitions possible. So please spend some time thinking about this, and then we'll move. How to prove correctness of this algorithm? Any intuitive approach? Abhishek is asking. I don't know the correctness. Yeah, I mean, the correctness must have been proved in the papers where this has been proposed. Yeah, but I don't know the answer to that. Any other concerns? Okay, who all completed the syntax tree for the regular expression? Okay, Vaibhav has completed. Rudra. Okay. So thank you that at least some of you are trying. Good. +1. Okay. So let's compute the nullable now. Nullable should be only those two star nodes. So we can move ahead from there. So let's compute the first pause for each of these nodes. First pause of the leaf node should be easy. You have to worry about the OR and star and concatenation. Yeah, again, I'll repeat whatever I have been seeing in PDS as well as object-oriented lab. It's very important that you spend time on your classwork, because although we are remote, but it's important that you spend time so that it becomes easier for you to understand it. And if there is something which you have not understood, you can ask now or send me an email and so on. But if you don't try now, it's going to be probably difficult. Okay. So first pause. Have people completed first pause? Okay. Arnav has completed. Rudra has completed. Okay. We'll wait for some more time. Sindhu has completed. Venkata Surya, Sarthak. Okay. And in the process, if somebody is facing any trouble, please ask. Okay. So for first pause, we are saying is the position of the first character. If A or B, then it should be A's position, union B's position. It's a set. Tarundeep has completed. Then for star node, it is going to be C star. It is in the first position of C's character. Okay, Ravi has completed. And then for the concatenation, it is going to be if C1 is non-nullable, then it is going to be C1's first pause. Otherwise, first character. Otherwise, it is going to be union of the two C1 and C2's first pause. Okay. All right. So we'll move ahead from first pause. Let's complete the last pause, which is going to be similar. Again, for star, it is going to be the last pause of C. For OR, it is going to be the last pause of C1 union last pause of C2. And for dot, it is going to be, again, if it is non-nullable of C1, non-nullable of C2, then it is going to be last pause of C2. Otherwise, it is going to be union of the two, last pause of C1 and last pause of C2. All right. Can someone write the first pause and last pause of the root node? And we can check if it is matching across students. Okay, first pause is BA. What is the last pause? First pause is BA. It should be in the numeric format. Okay, yeah. 1, 2, 4, 6 and 1, 2, 4, 6, 7. Okay, I think there is some discrepancy. I see. Yeah, numbering may be different, that's true. But having 4 or 5, that seems a little odd. So if it is a node containing the sharp sign, the last pause yeah, that node should be included. Root node C1 is null pause, correct? That is correct. So because both these strings, because it's a concatenation of both nullable, and therefore it can contain, so we have to include sharp in the first pause. That is correct. That is correct. Because empty string belongs to this language, unlike the previous example. That is correct. Right. So looks like that sharp signs node should get included in this as the last pause, as the first pause. One, 3, 5, 6 will be 1, 3, 5, 6, 7. Will sharp sign be in the last? Yeah, it will come in the last pause also. It's a see. There is a concatenation, and we are saying that yeah, that is correct. So what Venkat Surya has pushed, that seems to be reasonable. So first pause should also contain the sharp sign, and last pause should also contain the sharp sign. It seems reasonable. I mean the node corresponding to the sharp sign. Because both the subtrees are nullable, and therefore you are going to take the union. Therefore, this should come. Anybody has any issues with that? Okay, so let's assume that this is the case 1, 2, 4, 6 sharp. I mean, let's call it 7 and 1, 3, 5, 6, 7. With this, can we now compute the follow pause? So for the star node and the cat node, we have to compute the follow pause. So we said that, okay, let me just go back to that follow pause thing definition. So if it is a star node, then the last pause contains the first pause, right? So that follow pause is going to happen. And if it is a cat node, then for each position in the last pause of C1, we have to add the first pause of C2. So that's what we have the follow pause. No, we won't add sharp symbol to the root node. So Nama's question is, do we add the sharp symbol to the root node? No. We'll add concatenation of the sharp symbol to the root node as the right subtree, similar to what we have done here. So there is, so what we have as, okay, let me just go to our example. So we have B or AB star. This is one subtree. Then AA or B star. So these two stars are going to be two child nodes of a node. That node is the left subtree of a dot, and right subtree of that dot will be the sharp sign, which is the state number 7. 1, 2, 3, 1. Actually, there can be more states than 7. So the last pause of root will be sharp sign. Last pause of, yeah, so if you assume that that last pause of that dot should be the sharp sign. That seems to be fine. Last pause of the root node should be the sharp sign. That seems fine. Because that root node is representing the complete string, which is always ending with sharp, and therefore the last pause should contain sharp. Can it contain anything else? No, it cannot contain anything else. It has to contain only sharp sign for the root node. That seems correct. Okay, so how many of you were able to finish the follow pause? Okay, Rudra has completed. Sarthak has completed. Prashant. Okay, I'll leave the rest of it for you to compute, both the follow pause as well as the rest of the DFA. If somebody wants, you can push the final computation on Moodle, and we can discuss it from there in case there are any questions, right? So in case you are wondering what do we need to do with this DFA, we have to recognize strings during lexical analysis. We should not forget the higher level picture, which can be used in utilities such as grep, and can also be used in some of the libraries which are supported in some of the scripting languages, right? So that kind of completes our discussion on lexical analysis. Let me quickly start with the next one. So what we looked at was, we looked at basic lex syntax. We looked at there is some issue that happens with input buffering. Then we looked at KMP. We looked at regular expression to DFA conversions. Right. So let me quickly go to the parsing. Okay, anybody who is not able to see the screen, the slides for parsing? Okay. Oh, unable to see, blank screen. Okay. Anybody who is able to see it, click to exit. Okay. Okay, let me stop presenting, and I'll share it again. I'll share the screen again. I started a new presentation, so it might have caused an issue. Okay, it should come up now in a couple of seconds. All right, thank you. So let's come to parsing. So we have looked at the lexical analysis part, and we said that these two, lexical analysis, parsing, semantic analysis, code generation, IR generation, etc., all of these phases are separated because it gives rise to modular design. Plus, you can do whatever you can do in the lexical analysis. You can do the same using parsing, because this is a context-free grammar, which is a superset of the regular expressions. But it becomes simplified if you separate out the generation of tokens. So let's come to the parsing part, which is the second block in our transition diagram. Transition diagram meaning our flow of the compiler. Right? So our agenda is going to be, we are going to look at some of the basics. We are going to look at the precedence and associativity which comes into picture. Even the compiler that you are going to build, you are going to face this trouble when you are dealing with expressions, and that is what we are going to look at. Then there is some ambiguity which comes into the grammars, where for the same string you can have multiple, well, ambiguity in grammars means that for the same string you can have two derivations, right? So that becomes ambiguity. Then there is some notion of left recursion which comes into picture when we are dealing with certain kinds of grammars, right? Although we will not face that issue in YAC, we should know what happens in the background, and therefore this part is going to be important. Then we are going to look at top-down and bottom-up parsing. You have to find out and tell me what happens in the YAC, whether it generates a top-down parser or a bottom-up parser. Within each of these, there are different kinds of parsers that we are going to look at, and those are going to be LL1, SLR, LR1, and LLR parsers. Okay, so let's begin. So jobs of a parser are going to be essentially read the specification given by the language implementer. The implementation of a language is specified in some sort of rules, right? So those rules need to be read by the parser, then get the help from the lexer to collect the tokens, right? So it is going to get those tokens, check if those sequence of tokens that has been obtained from the lexer, whether it matches the specification. The specification is typically given as a context-free grammar. We have to check if that, so in case of our assignment statement, we said that type variable equal to number, semicolon, right? This was the specification of that particular language, right? So whether the tokens retrieved from the lexer, whether those match this particular assignment, and depending upon that, we say that it is a successful program structure. It's a successful program structure and not the semantics. It need not be a semantically valid program. And we talked about this multiple times. For example, in C, string plus string is not allowed, but that is a valid program structure. You have not yet specified how the semantics should be. That is going to come later. Or if it is not syntactically valid, then we give an error report. In a useful manner is also important. And the reason being that, as you will notice as you are working with your compiler, is that the construct might span multiple statements. For example, if you write a construct for the for loop, so for, then there are different parts separated by semicolon, and then there is a block, right, which is the opening brace, closing brace, or a single statement, right, that you can call it as a block. Now this block, if it has some error, you are going to probably find that error in this for construct. But that for construct has already consumed the tokens till the block finishes. And the block might finish on a line which is far away from that for statement. And therefore, you might give an error on a line much later. Right? So error processing is actually a very important thing. When we were studying compilers, the error processing was really as bad as whatever I explained, that you have an error here and it will give an error towards the end of the construct. But it has improved over time, and now you get errors quite close to where the error is, right? But not always. There are, I mean, because of the parsing related issues, you might get an error on a line just next to the statement where the error occurs. It also will have to identify some semantic errors, but that is not part of the context-free grammar part. It's because of the rules, because of the actions that we specify along with the parser. So the specification, well, what you can do is that ignore context-free grammar altogether, write a string tokenizer, right? So string talk function, or let's say in Java you have the string tokenizer. I use that to get the to write my parser using that, right? So people who do not have the knowledge of compilers, they are going to write it in this manner, and that is okay when you have simpler specifications. When you have just one line specification, if you want to just check if it's an assignment statement or not, if that is the only thing that you want to do, writing it directly using string talk is not really a problem. But when you have an elaborate specification like a particular language, then doing it with string manipulation becomes really tedious, right? And that is where these tools Lex and Yak or Lex and Bison were very useful. Earlier people actually wrote the compiler using the string manipulation in the 60s, and therefore compiler was considered to be a very big beast, because your code will definitely get very messier, and making any change to that was difficult. So therefore Lex and Yak, when they were proposed, although these were proposed by two different people, and they also have different, and these were proprietary by the way, Lex and Yak. The Flex and Bison are the open source versions of this one, Lex and Yak. So they have different licensing, Lex and Yak, and they were proprietary. So when they were introduced, initially it was used only in the specific company, I think Bell Labs or the place, whichever company they were introduced in, and those were used only for that. And then because of the usage within the company, it got improved, and then it was made available to the public in the context of Flex and Bison. So what we would prefer to do is to specify a context-free grammar corresponding to this, because our life becomes easy. Context-free grammars are well understood, right? And if we can specify that, then the specification becomes much simpler and much easier to understand than a string manipulation program. In case of string manipulation program also, your specification and the action will get merged, whereas here we can keep the grammar separate and the action separate. So it is first of all precise, easier to understand as well as maintain. Well, in general, it gives correct translation, because we are talking about a specific tool which already exists, which has already been checked, right? There will be bugs in that, but by and large, it is going to work correctly. So the error detection becomes easier. It will be uniform across people, right? So when you have error detection in uniform manner, it becomes easier for the user of your compiler, that is the programmer who is compiling the program using your compiler, that becomes easy. And you can also incrementally add it. Incremental thing is also possible in string manipulation, but it becomes difficult when you want to add something in between. So that causes problem in string manipulation programs. Okay, so next time if you have to write something as a string manipulation, don't get into this string talk functions, etc. if the grammar is somewhat complicated. Right? If it is very simple, one line specification, then it's not a problem. Okay, so let's talk about a specific context-free grammar. Maybe I have exceeded the time, so we'll maybe stop here. But any questions on the initial part? Okay, if there are no questions, then we'll stop here and we'll meet tomorrow.